Okay, hey, what's up? So we are doing another FreeCodeCamp video, and this should be a short one. We are specifying how fonts should degrade. That doesn't sound very exciting, but it's useful stuff, and I think you'll find it interesting. So we're going to approach this in three parts. We're first going to go through the overview and make sure that we understand the content. Next, we're going to go into the solution. And then finally, if there's anything that comes up that seems interesting, I'll save it for the end and call it bonus content. All right, so let's get started. Specify how fonts should degrade. There are several different fonts that are available in all browsers. These generic font families include monospace, sans serif, serif, Times New Roman, or something like that. I forget which order the words go on that one. When one font isn't available, you can tell the browser to degrade it to another font. And this concept carries over to other things other than fonts. But we'll focus on fonts now. For example, if you wanted an element to use the Helvetica font, or Helvetica font, but degrade it to the sans serif font, when Helvetica isn't available, you will specify it as follows. Font family, Helvetica, and then sans serif after the comma. Generic fonts, font family names are not case sensitive. Also, they do not need quotes because they are CSS keywords. To begin, apply the monospace font to the H2 element so that it now has two fonts, Lobster and monospace. Okay, so to begin, apply the monospace font to the H2 element. This is the H2 element, so that it has two fonts, Lobster and monospace, or we'll come back to that. In the last challenge, you imported the Lobster font using the link tag. Now, comment out the import of the Lobster font using the HTML comments you learned before from Google Fonts so that it is not available anymore. Notice how the H2 element degrades to the monospace font. Note if you have Lobster font installed on your computer, you won't see the degradation because your browser isn't able to find the font. Okay, so that was the overview. So now we're going to jump into the solution. Okay, so this is this H2 element. This is the H2 element that we're looking at here. And to begin, we're going to apply the monospace font so that it now has two fonts. And so if we look at the example before, we can just do monospace. Now, it didn't change it to monospace. This is just a backup in case this one fails. And why might that fail? Well, there's a lot of different reasons it could fail. And so we're just going to assume that it can fail, and then that this would be the backup. Okay, so now we want to make this fail. And so in order to do that, we're going to remove this. Oh, look at that. The font changed to monospace as opposed to the font changing to that kind of ugly font. All right, so we have completed the solution. Let's run the tests. And I have a failing tests. Oh, I deleted the Lobster import. I did not actually comment it out. So on FreeCodeCamp, if you run into this situation, you can try going back enough times until you're able to fix your mistake, or you can push this great button called Reset the Lesson, Reset All Code. And we only have one change here, monospace. And then up here, we're going to comment this out. And how you would comment this out in HTML, so you have this little caret thing, two dashes, that begins the comment. Now we need to terminate it. And so we'll do that. Cool. So that's the solution. Let's run the tests again. Bam, and we're done. That's great. And you may think as you're going through some of these like, oh no, I had a failing test. That's terrible. It's not terrible. It's actually a really good thing. The tests are there to help you, and you'll understand that as the more you work as a developer. Okay, now time to move into bonus content. This was a short lesson, so I don't have a whole lot, but I do have a great trick on commenting and uncommenting elements. So if we see here, lines 1 through 3, how I manually had to type in that stuff, there's another, and I would say a better way to do it. So select the text you want to comment out, and then on a Windows machine, press Control and / at the same time. And that will automatically comment the code out. And I believe it's the same command on a Mac as well, like the Control /. The / is right next to the Shift key in case you're having trouble finding it. Now let's say you want to uncomment the code. Well, we can just do Control / again, and it uncomments it. Ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. And this works for everything. This works for CSS. And if you notice, this is interesting, that's a different kind of a comment, right? But that still worked. And so this is going to work in code editors. So a code editor would be what this little window is here. VS Code is a code editor. If you wanted to do an online code editor, there's also CodePen. We'll probably take a look at that eventually. That's a great resource for when you're learning. So yeah, that's my bonus content, and that wraps up today's lesson.